What's going on, guys? It's Metalloid here. Welcome back again to Movie Club. I think we're starting to get the hang of this now. You should all know the drill. We got 5 films to talk about today, and I'm going to be getting into full spoilers on all of them. I was very happy to see that timestamps are in fact working. Thank you, YouTube. So you can skip to whichever films you watch this month. And once again, if you decide to add discussions in the comments, which I would love, please add a spoiler warning beforehand. Wow, see? Easy peasy. Actually, quick note, in case you missed my community post, I did make a mistake. I had to remove the invite from this month's movie club. I figured out it only had a limited theatrical release this month. It's actually releasing nationwide in July. I don't know why everywhere was saying it was coming out in June. That's really annoying, but you know what? Live and you learn. So I've replaced it with another round, once again, as I said in my post. If you have been missing it, yes, I've been using community posts to give updates on Movie Club, especially on the viewer-submitted film, so please always check up on that. So once again, very sorry about that mistake, but yeah, let's just start with the first film.
Hey guys, Sting it, Jerome!
So the first film I've got here is Backrooms. Right off the bat, I'll say sorry if my discussion on this one is a little all over the place. I watched this at the very beginning of June because it came out at the end of May. So, you know, my memories on it are a little hazy, but I always take notes on everything, so things to talk about and all that. So I'll try my best. But yeah, it's been a while, basically been a full month now. But yeah, Backrooms was an incredibly impressive feature debut from Kane Parsons, who is 20 years old, by the way. Not sure if you guys knew that. Actually, he's 21 now. He just turned 21. Wow. That's crazy. He made A24's biggest film, and he couldn't even celebrate with a drink. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, man. I mean, this thing just feels huge. It's so refreshing to get films from younger artists. We have Kane Parsons here, but we also, last month, I talked about Obsession, which was from Curry Barker, and he is 26, I believe. So that's really cool. And I mean, when you look back in film history, so much of our best talents, like, we're starting out young. Spielberg, he was only 27 when he made Jaws. Paul Thomas Anderson, he was 26 when he made Boogie Nights. That's crazy. Talent can come from younger generations. I think a lot of Hollywood and the older executives don't want to believe that, but it is true. And I'd love if that's the lesson that they take from these two successful films, is that, you know, trust younger talent and give them artistic control. But I think instead what we're going to get is a bunch of movies based on Reddit horror stories. So yay, Hollywood. Yeah, also it's, again, if we're hopefully going to get more works from this generation, it's really exciting to get creative works from a generation that was raised on video games. Kane has talked a lot about how he is heavily inspired by Portal, and I think he even brought up Little Big Planet in an interview, and I think that's so cool. A lot of the older artists, you know, they maybe don't pull from video games as much. I know, like, Zach Kreger, he's about to do Resident Evil, and he's talked about how much he loves those games. So, you know, you do see it sometimes, but definitely not as often. And speaking of, like, Kane, you know, talking about these inspirations in interviews, he is so refreshingly articulate and intelligent. And that's reflected by the actors of this film have spoken very highly of his direction, and they've even defended him against the stupid ghostwriter theories, because people were like, there's no way someone this young is in charge of a Hollywood movie. And it's like, yep, I'm sorry. There are young people that are very creative and smart. I hate to break it to you. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what he does next. I mean, he's been, even before this movie, been doing incredible work on YouTube. And so, you know, I'm sure he's going to continue on that, but also likely in film. I think they've already confirmed that they're looking at another movie. I would love love if he could somehow do a Portal movie. I think that would be awesome, but also just original stuff. But to now talk about the film itself, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Right off the bat, the atmosphere and vibe of the film is fantastic. The production design here is just great. Like, they recreated so much of this space from the YouTube series. Like, the actors talked about how you could get lost on the set, which is just incredible to me. I think that's so cool. I think they did so well at getting the sets recreated. But Kane also handled the music, which was very eerie and really good. I just thought like the entire location and vibe of the YouTube series was adapted perfectly. Like, this film is such a good adaptation. I really respect that. I feel like Backrooms falls in a similar category as Five Nights at Freddy's, where it's like this was kind of a smaller thing that blew up, and it was adopted a lot by the younger audiences. And because of that, the Five Nights at Freddy's movies were made PG-13 to cash in on those younger viewers. I really respect that Kane and A24 went with the R rating to get the best vision possible from this. Like, it is a full R rating. It's a very adult film, and I really respect that. I work at a movie theater. I can't tell you how many kids I had to turn away from seeing this movie or stop from sneaking in. Like, it was crazy. I had to explain to so many of my coworkers. Like, they were like, "Why are there so many kids?" And I was like, "You ever heard of Roblox?" This thing all over that. But yeah, even the found footage aspect of the original is maintained, which I loved. And, you know, speaking again on the sets, you know, they had full sets, but, you know, you can't get an exact recreation. So Kane took his expertise in Blender and mixed that with the practical effects. There's a behind the scenes out already that shows the neighborhood street, like suburbs, like with the houses. And they had huge blimp or balloon lights in the sky to get the lighting right. And then Kane went in himself, and I'm sure along with other VFX artists, and they used Blender to then, you know, get the rest of the setting correct. And I think that's I think it's such a great example of mixing great practical effects with CGI and VFX. It's yeah, it was really impressive to look at. I loved how well it replicated 90s America with the infomercials and just cars and music. I really enjoyed that. And I mean, this will sound stupid, but I mean, just one of the biggest compliments I can give the movie is that it doesn't forget to be a movie. And again, that goes back to the Five Nights at Freddy's movies, where I feel like just the writing is not at all really there. It's, you know, it adapts these characters and locations really well, but it's just not a very good movie. This is both a great adaptation and a great movie. It has themes and such. It utilizes the Backrooms concept to explore concepts of cyclical nature and memories, where the Backrooms copies the real world, but the copy gets worse each time. And that's, you know, it's doing that to explore how memories over time, they obscure, they change, they fade. The more you go back to it, it just keeps getting hazier and more different, and suddenly that memory isn't at all accurate. You know, it's kind of that kind of then you apply to unreliable narrators, like with Clark as a character, where can you trust a lot of the things he's saying in his therapy sessions? A lot of people have pointed out how in that scene at the table in the Backrooms, when the still life of presumably his wife runs away from Pirate Clark, like they're like, maybe that's evidence to a bigger abusive relationship than he let on, you know? And this might be a stretch, but that concept of copies getting worse and worse reminded me of AI. Like, You know, how it can copy something, but it's always off to an uncanny degree. And, you know, the more AI learns and learns, it kind of, like, if it keeps pulling from the same information, it's just going to get worse and worse. Or it could even be, I felt like, a commentary on reboots and sequels in Hollywood, how we are just recreating and adding to the same things so much that we've lost track of what they were in the first place. You know, Star Wars, like, I feel like we've lost the original spirit of that with the Mandalorian came out. And I thought that was such the definition of mid. It was such a soulless film. And all these Disney live action remakes, they just feel so far from the original creative and artistic piece that it's pulling from. But yeah, the film follows two characters who are both in a pretty bad rut in their lives. So you have Clark, who is played by, I'm gonna try my very best here, Chiwetel Ejiofor. I hope that I did that right. And then Mary, played by, this one I know, Renata Renzve. I'm such a big fan of her, and I was like, I gotta know her name. But they are both fantastic in this film. I thought Ejiofor was especially compelling. I genuinely haven't stopped thinking about the dinner table scene in the Backrooms. And like I said, I saw this at the beginning of June. It just hasn't left me. It's going to easily be one of my favorite scenes of the year. I think just both of their performances in that scene and the writing and just what happens. It's so memorable and effective. But yeah, and I thought Renzve handled the horror scenes and the ending really well. And her distant stares in this film carry so much. You know, with the ending of the film, especially. As a Shrinking fan, it was nice to see Lukita Maxwell, even if only for like 5 minutes. But yeah, Clark as a character, he can't get over his recent divorce and his failed dreams of being an architect. And then Mary is stuck carrying the trauma from her childhood, where her mother kept her secluded, and then she was put in a mental institute. And, you know, because of that, she is now stuck trying to help others instead of herself, to try and make up for the guilt of her mother being taken away the way she was. And yeah, so, you know, like the film is so frightening and atmospheric, but these great characters and themes carry weight to hold engagement. Because I know a lot of people were like, oh, I've got a little bored in it. And I never felt that, because I was, you know, whether it was the way it was filmed and, you know, like I was talking about the production and all that, or just the characters, I was so invested. And it was also really cool to get a film where our protagonist fails, I guess, because I'd say Clark is the main character, and, you know, by the end he chooses this detached life in the Backrooms, where he just says he does not want to change. And, you know, there are a lot of people like that in real life. You know, there are some people who just refuse to change. And then, you know, obviously that choice is what, you know, leads him to become a snack. But then Mary, on the other hand, she does seem to recognize her cycle when she says that she can't save Clark, and that she feels she can't save anyone. And so in that moment, if she had really made it out, she might have had a chance to change things around. But her ending is probably still not very optimistic, because if you followed the YouTube series, you know Async, and you know that they are ones to cover things up. So she might not be seeing the light of day, or she'll lose sanity from this experience and just follow her mother's footsteps, you know, which is really sad. And yeah, like I was saying, I really appreciated the R rating on this. I was pleasantly surprised by the number of kills and the gore. That scene where Bobby is dragged into the door was so awesome. Clark's death was so gnarly. And it's unfortunately getting the Breaking Bad treatment, where it's like such an emotional and gruesome scene, but I've seen so many memes on that scene. That's gonna be hard to take it seriously. And I really liked Pirate Clark. By the way, I thought that was such a really cool and creepy entity, and I liked, just how it represents how bad Clark's mind and mental state was at the time. He's just so lanky, and like the way it would, like, when chasing Mary, like its arms would just almost reach her. It was so freaky, and I loved it. I do wish we got the Kanye PNG. Would have just felt a little more authentic to the Backrooms. Again, sorry, this is all over the place. Just some other thoughts. I really enjoyed this film. I've seen, like I said, a lot of criticism was directed towards the pacing and just feeling a little bored. But I think a lot of people saying that are the ones that wanted like Baldy and Pomni to show up in it. So, not really going to take their word on this. I personally love slow burns. I love The Thing. That's probably my favorite horror movie. So I was never really bored. I felt that each journey into the Backrooms was better than the last in this film, which really helped my engagement. Yeah, it's super enjoyable film. I'm so excited to see where Kane takes this story next, where he takes his career. We will be following him with great interest. Now, go enjoy that drink, sir.
Jingle, jingle, pay attention, pay attention. I said your favorite word, the Backrooms. Okay, the Backrooms. Dingle, dangle, dingle, dangle.
Speaking of a drink, the next film I'm talking about is Another Round. This is a Danish film from Thomas Vinterberg, and it stars Mads Mikkelsen, Maria Bonnevie, Magnus Millang, Thomas Bo Larsen, and Lars Ranthe. Hopefully that's right. But yeah, this is the film I substituted the invite for. I have seen this one. I watched it back when it came out in 2020, I think. So I hadn't seen this film in 6 years still, so it had been a while. And I enjoyed it even more this time. It definitely helps to have experience with alcohol now. But the film focuses on the midlife crises of its four leading men, but it's largely about alcohol and drinking. I think the film has a very entertaining premise with the blood alcohol concentration experiment, where they are trying to maintain a 0.05% BAC all day to see how it affects their lives. And it's really fun to watch. And I love that this film is not explicitly pro or anti-alcohol. It lets the viewers come to their own conclusions, because it's showing all angles of this depressant. Because the experiment does initially improve their lives, but then for the quote-unquote experiment, they push it too far. And they learn that a drunk night is then gonna inevitably come with a equally strong hangover in the morning. And it doesn't take a genius to see that the alcohol in this film can be replaced with any other form of self-relief. There's a line outright in the beginning of the film that says, it's okay to have fun, but this is out of hand. I think that's just one of the big lessons of the film. It's just moderation. And yeah, like with that excess, we see the students in the film. In the very beginning, they're drinking like crazy and causing public disturbances. And then as the film goes on, Martin, Tommy, Nikolai, and Peter hurt themselves and their relationships. Martin becomes estranged from his wife after a very drunken night. Nikolai puts his family life in danger, and Tommy suffers the most by fully falling into his alcoholism. There's the one sequence where after their oblivion drink, I think they call it, they do it again the very next day, and that night is just like sad. They look like such miserable fools, and it's just disappointing to watch. It shows the negative effects alcohol can have when it's used in excess. But then again, that same depressant saved their teaching, really. It also gave many nights of fun and freedom. It connected them to their students, and it awoke something in them. It kind of got them out of their funks. You know, it's like the great mind of Homer Simpson.
To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
You know, as someone with major anxiety, I can definitely say that it does boost my spirits and confidence. But I don't personally find the hangovers worth truly crazy nights, so I don't personally drink too hard. So yeah, again, it kind of all comes down to moderation. You know, it's like, don't drink too much, but if we don't allow ourselves some freedom to be idiots and a bit stupid, life can get boring pretty fast. I think it's really cool how the filmmaking on display follows the character's journey really expertly. In the beginning of the film, there's a lack of music and a lot of steady cam, very normal editing, I guess. Like the film feels quote unquote boring. You know, it's very standard. And then once drinks are introduced, suddenly many piano pieces are inserted. The camera begins to wobble around like after you've had some strong drinks, and it swoops in and out of close-ups, and that causes like the focus to adjust, which replicates the blurry vision of being drunk. And then the editing and shot type becomes even more sporadic as well. So it's like the filmmaking comes alive with our characters, which is really cool. It's a great display of Vinterberg's direction. And yeah, and those characters wouldn't work without the 4 brilliant performances. And they're all great, but Mads Mikkelsen is just a force in this. I love the 40th birthday scene at the dinner table where I can just see so much moving through his head, even though he's not saying anything. I can tell how he's pondering his own age and asking himself, how did he get to this point? Where did it go wrong? His eyes and expressions are just so great. And I also like in that scene just showing how, and even the one later with the Oblivion drink where, you know, if you want to drink, like being the designated driver is a tough break, but also, you know, then the seduction of just one drink, it inevitably leads to another and another, you know, so that's why it's important to have control. But yeah, Mikkelsen, like he's just so great that the film is so enjoyable when he becomes excited in teaching again. I'm really glad that he got to play a role that is as fun and charismatic as he seems in the press. It's the ending especially it's so good. Just watching him dance, jump around, like that ending leaves you feeling buzzed. It is so good. It's so much fun. I love it. And honestly, if you walked away from this film without a crush on him, you're stronger than me, and I maybe don't trust you. Another thing I wanted to touch on is the teaching subplot. And I wanted to because watching it, I totally understand how the students feel in the film, where it's very obvious when a teacher does not care and is so checked out of teaching, where they simply are going through the curriculum and, you know, just what's on their notes rather than actually engaging with their students and the material. I think it's so important for teachers to find new ways to go through the same curriculum, because obviously they can't change that, but you can definitely change how you teach it, because that's how you're going to keep yourself and your students invested. You know, it's like how songs will help people remember things. So Martin in this film, he plays fun games and does jokes with his students, like, you know, where he's talking about Churchill and Hitler, you know, like he tricks them into voting for Hitler. That gets the students so involved, and he also tries to relate to them by talking about their drinking games. There's a point where Peter says that their students are going to forget them the moment they leave. But then at the end of the film, they toss him in the air like a winner. And I can say that I remember all my best teachers. The only ones I've forgotten are the boring or bad ones. So, you know, a good teacher is going to be remembered and so appreciated. I think it's so important. anyway, that was just a small thing I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I think this film is fantastic. It's humorous. It's heartfelt. I think sometimes the drama can be a bit too heightened, like the scene where Martin falls out with his wife. He has to like sweep everything off the table and all that. There's some stuff that's kind of stretched a bit, but it explores alcohol brilliantly and how old age doesn't necessarily mean the end of youth. In this film, Martin feels like a failure with his missed grant and PhD. And then Peter is saying how he wants kids but feels hopeless in meeting someone. At the end of the film, his own student says it best. He says, "You must accept yourself as fallible in order to love others and life. You might not be able to correct your mistakes, but you can come to terms with them. As long as you're engaging with life and not letting it pass through you, that youth won't leave." Anyway, if you're going to take away anything from the film, I'm sure it's that "What a Life" is probably stuck in your head by now. And that song embodies the spirit of this film better than I could ever explain it. So yeah, great film.
All right, I'm sitting in my chair, I'm relaxing, I'm getting blackout drunk, and you're leaving me alone.
Next film I watched was The Blues Brothers. This is directed by John Landis, was released in 1980, and stars John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. I have actually not seen this film before, but I can now say that it is a truly bizarre yet absolutely joyous film. I really can't say I can name some other musical action comedies, but yeah, this film is just bizarre. Like, after watching the film, I looked a lot into its origins and just discovered just how crazy the existence of this thing is. So the Blues Brothers were created as a skit for Saturday Night Live in the 70s, and it came from like Dan Aykroyd mostly having a deep appreciation for blues, jazz, soul, and all the like. And Belushi actually discovered the blues through Aykroyd, and he became obsessed apparently. And so they came up with these two characters. That was kind of just an excuse for them to act like musicians, and that joke spiraled into a legit band and an expansive lore. I mean, their act opened for the Grateful Dead once, which is crazy. And I think this is so funny. Aykroyd wrote a quote-unquote tome of backstory for their characters, Jake and Elwood. It was called a tome because he wrote so much on them. And after that, Aykroyd and Landis wrote the script for this blockbuster, and it entered a huge bidding war. And Universal eventually won that bidding war, and the film then entered production hell with very high costs. It's probably still one of the most expensive comedies. And this was because of its large-scale action scenes, some offset partying and behavior, mostly from Belushi, and several great musical cameos. I figured out that the studio apparently wanted to replace some of those cameos, like Aretha Franklin and James Brown, because they weren't in the public eye as much at the time. And Aykroyd apparently fought hard against this, which I really appreciate. That musical respect, I guess I'd say, is one of the many reasons this film immediately spoke to me. I love blues, jazz, soul, rock and roll, and this film loves that music and music as an art entirely. It sees music as a force to connect and inspire people, and I think that is so cool. In college, I actually took a rock and roll history class, which was very enjoyable. So mostly thanks to that, I was able to recognize most of the musical cameos in this, and they got me so excited. You have Ray Charles in this, who blindly shoots right near a kid to get him out of his store. That was hilarious. Aretha Franklin, her musical sequence in this was maybe my favorite. Her voice is just amazing. But I also love in that sequence, Jake and Elwood just perfectly join her choreography for a minute before sitting back down casually. That was really funny. And the film even got the godfather of soul, James Brown. That's just so cool. I really appreciated how all of their musical acts were just allowed to breathe. Again, just great respect for them and their art, which I think is really cool. And I will say I personally wasn't familiar with the actual Blues Brothers musical talent. The band is stupendous. Aykroyd kills it on harmonica, and Belushi has some pipes on him. Like, god damn. That said, it is like hard to talk about Belushi without, some sadness. He passed away so young, and watching this, it's just so obvious that he was a rare talent and human that I wish committed to himself. So, watching the film, it feels a little sad. But yeah, both him and Aykroyd are both fantastic together. Besides the musical elements of the film, the comedy and action are also outrageous. The film somehow functions as like a collection of skits and musical numbers that's just held together by such a ludicrous plot. They're on a mission from God in this film. Literally, the light of God shines on Belushi, and he knows he got to get the band back together. I don't think I need to really get into how funny this film is. It kind of just goes without saying, but I'll point out a few highlights for me. Their visit to the penguin, as they call her, was so funny. The scene where she's slapping them with the ruler, and they just keep swearing over and over, just like, fuck, goddamn, oh my, Jesus Christ. But also that they made her like basically magic, like the doors were closing on their own and she like slides back through the doorway. That was so funny. Any scene with Carrie Fisher was hilarious. I didn't know she was in this, and that was awesome. The apartment bomb was probably the highlight, though. That I was like, my mouth was like dropped. I couldn't believe that happened, and then they just walk it off, not a care. And yeah, speaking of with Carrie Fisher, there were so many surprise actors in this, which was so fun. John Candy is in this. No idea. Paul Rubens is just randomly a waiter. And Steven Spielberg, he's just in the end of the movie. I was like, what the fuck are you doing here, bro? Yeah, that was so much fun. I think there's plenty others that I just like am not as familiar with. I loved the sudden, just out of nowhere introduction of the Nazis, who of course in that first scene are being protected by the police. Who'd have thought? But Belushi just being like, I hate Illinois Nazis. Like, yes. The performance in the country bar was really funny. Just the hundreds of broken bottles being thrown. But then that entire final act, oh my God, hilarious and so impressive. That bit where the Nazis are falling forever from the sky killed me. That was so funny. Like that, it just seemed like they kept going higher and higher. But yeah, this whole film, it's full of such great physical and situational comedy that allows it to be so timeless and a classic. But at the same time, it's also a great time capsule of 80s Chicago and the blues. And that's another part of the film that really spoke to me, was its focus on Chicago. Chicago is the closest major city I live to. I've been to it countless times. So that setting obviously spoke to me. I loved the opening shots of like the industrial side of Chicago and the power plants, because like it opened and I was like, yep, that's Chicago. Like I just got immediately recognized. But there's also the trains and the tunnels, street performers. Like I love when a location is its own character in a project. The Bear is another great Chicago favorite of mine. Yeah, that was just really cool. Similarly, this is not directly related to Chicago, but I genuinely got so excited seeing the Jewel Osco in the mall. Like, until I went to college, I thought jewels were just everywhere. Like, they were just a normal thing like Walmart. And I met a friend at my college who was also from Illinois, and he thought the same thing. And we both learned that not everyone has them. Like, because we brought them up and we were like, what the hell is a jewel? And we were like, oh my God, you guys don't have jewels? So I saw it, I was like, oh my God, it's a Jewel Osco. But yeah, that was just really funny. I mentioned the action, but I didn't comment more on it. The action is genuinely impressive and just surprisingly so. The car chases are brilliant. I mean, that mall chase where the jewel is was insane. Like, if that was filmed today, that mall would be mostly empty. Like, there were so many people in it, extras and probably stunned people. Like, I was like, they are barely dodging these cars. It was crazy. And then in that final act and that final chase, that one was insane. There's a shot on the front of the Bluesmobile that was so good. And I don't even know how many police cars they crashed in this. Hilarious, but again, also just impressive. The number of extras with the army and everything, like the excess of them was so funny. I love that all the troops are just like, hut, 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 hut. Like, they're going down the building, like, hut, 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 hut. Like, so good, man. I miss comedies having legit direction like this. Landis did fantastic. The film looks stunning so many times, but then the set pieces and the film's just capability to not fall apart from everything it's doing, it's just so impressive. Yeah, my only complaint would maybe be the film is like a smidge too long for me, but I feel like a rewatch honestly could solidify this as an easy 5 stars. Absolute blast of a film. I haven't seen anything like it. I feel ashamed for sleeping on it as long as I have. Yeah, just loved it.
I'm Dan Aykroyd. This is an accurate glass rendering of a human skull.
The next film I got to talk about is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This is a French film directed by Céline Sciamma. I hope I'm saying that all right. Thank you to A. Gray for the suggestion. You have a lot of good picks. I'd be happy if you put those again later. But also, you were the only one who suggested. What's going on, guys? I need more suggestions. Come on, this video, put them down in the comments. But yeah, this film, I'll start by saying that I feel a little out of place discussing it. And that's just because this is a film made by women and definitely for women. But I still think that men and anyone else can feel and learn a lot from this film. So I'll do my best to talk about it a little intelligently, but obviously don't take everything I really say to heart, because I don't think I'm the best to talk about it, but I obviously still want to, because this film was fantastic. It is a truly beautiful film in just every sense. It is shot beautifully by Claire Maffon, the cinematographer. It is written beautifully. Just a fantastic screenplay. I think it won at the Cannes Film Festival. And it's about a beautiful love. It's a beautiful love story. I was just entranced by this for its entire runtime. I basically like studied it, like every detail, just like how Marianne and Eloise studied each other. I can only describe it as like when you're hypnotized staring into a fire, you know, just watching its embers dancing and changing every second, just the movement entirely capturing your eye. I will say, you know, again, I'm an artist, and I honestly don't like painting. It's definitely not my preferred medium, but I hold major respect for still life painters, anyone that can capture life as accurately as like Marianne does in this film. It's amazes me. But I am familiar with the delicate process of working off a model. I've never studied a subject as long and personally as Marianne does, but I have done still lifes and I've done model drawing in college. And, you know, it is fascinating how unique and compelling the shapes and contours of the human body are, like, once you really pay attention to it. And yeah, it's not something you'll truly recognize until you study it. And I feel like even if you're not an artist, I think you will study it if you find love, which I think is an idea that this film explores, which is how it lingers on both these characters with their faces and their bodies. And like, just like them, you're like, again, like you're just studying every detail about them. Like, Eloise might not be the one painting, but she is just as enchanted with Marianne as she is painting her. Yeah, I love when films use different talents, I guess, to explore universal feelings, like how Whiplash, you know, uses drumming to explore creative addiction, or Challengers uses tennis to explore relationships. This film uses painting to explore love, memory, and autonomy. And I love it because, you know, in the subject of this film, you have Eloise being forced into an unwanted marriage. And as this is happening, her entire character has to be captured and contained in a single canvas. It's similar to like an obituary, where it's like, how do you capture someone's entire character in such a small vessel? Like it just feels so entrapping, and you have to just, how do you capture them? In the beginning, Marianne tries to capture Eloise with hidden glances and an outsider's perspective, because she has to hide that she's a painter. And this process yields a piece that definitely looks like Eloise, but doesn't at all represent her. And when she finished that painting, I was like, okay, we're barely halfway into this film, so something ain't right. Like, I was like, I knew we got a lot more coming. But then it's only after their intimate days spent together that Marianne more accurately finds her likeness. But I still don't think it can replace the true experience of being with her. And I think that's where the true heartbreaking pain of this film comes from, is by the end of their experience and relationship, both of them will have the memory and image of each other, because Marianne draws herself in the book. But, you know, eventually that's all they'll have of each other. Eloise says in reference to her portrait that after a while, you'll see her when you think of me. And I was just like, oh, bro. Doomed Yuri, bro. Doomed Yuri. It's painful. And yeah, and then the moment at the end when in her new portrait, she has like the page open to number 28. I was like, bro, you can't do this to me. You can't do this. Like, yeah, I definitely got so wrapped up in this relationship. It was done so well. And, you know, I think with that idea of them only having the memory of each other, there's obviously a connection with the story of Orpheus and Eurydice that they kind of reference a few times. When they're initially reading it, Eloise argues that Orpheus seems to choose memory over a life with Eurydice, since he looks back knowing that that's going to make the deal with Hades null. And, you know, because they kind of get into that story, it definitely made me wonder if Marianne and Eloise could have fled together, or, you know, if they considered that or even discussed it together. But I feel like they both come to the conclusion that their brief love was so passionate that they choose to preserve that forever in memory. Because love is not necessarily measured by its duration or the time, but more just the passion and how powerful it was. But yeah, some other ideas. Yeah, so some big ones I feel more unequipped to talk about is, like, in this film, there's a constant battle between the male and female gaze, or like the lingering authority men have in this film, despite their lack of on-screen presence. Because I think so much of the drama in this film comes from the fallout of men's actions. I mean, you have the main subject of Eloise's marriage, but then even that marriage is being forced onto her after it was already being forced on her sister, who then presumably committed suicide. Or you have the plot line of Sophie's pregnancy. And even in the beginning of the film, the scene where Marianne has to dive for her canvases in the water after the men's rowing froze it overboard. All the things our characters are dealing with are happening largely because of the actions of men and then leaving them to deal with it. And then also at this time period, I think it's 18th century, painting as an art was dominated by men, or at like the very least, like men received all acclaim and their works were remembered, and they even decided the rules of painting, like how Marianne talks about, like she's not allowed to paint nude men, only really women and then clothed men. And I think in like the beginning of the film, Marianne is kind of operating mostly under those rules. Her first portrait of Eloise, I think, operates under the male gaze, and she's trying to imagine what the husband will want. And then once she gets to the second painting, that comes from her actual understanding and appreciation from Eloise, more of her female gaze. And I feel like that was kind of one of her main journey as a character, where by the end, I think she assumes more pride in her art, where at that gallery, she like proudly tells that one guy, like, oh yeah, no, I actually painted this one and I just had to use my father's name to enter it. Like her piece is there among all these other ones that are presumably under the title of men, but for all we know, so many more were painted by women and were just not allowed to take the credit. And Marianne also now is teaching this next generation of female painters. Like, I feel like she found the power she has and the ability she has to help with preserving female history and giving them more control and power. I love the scene where she paints like their recreation of Sophie's abortion, because in that scene she's like trying to look away, ashamed, which again I think is coming from the conditioning of men, where that's such like a portrayed as like such an evil thing. I mean, even now there's so much controversy over that idea, but Eloise reassures her and like tells her like, look at it. And so I think like Marianne learns that like those experiences and those hardships have at that time and still even now have gone so unrecognized, that she sees like, okay, I have the ability to capture this moment. And I just thought that was so powerful. And again, I'm sorry if like I'm maybe not talking about that idea very well. I know that's a very, again, layered topic and controversial, but again, I thought the film's discussion and handling of all of it was really amazing. But yeah, I just found all those ideas so interesting and cool. I think there's so much more I could say about the film. Like, I mean, the performances in this are astounding. They are so believable and emotional. And then there's the lack of music in the film, which was a bold but a great choice. And I think because of that, those performances have to do even more work, because like there's no music to, I guess, manipulate your emotions. And I don't think scores in other films are necessarily doing that, but they do help in conveying an emotion. And in this, it's left up to the performances and the writing and the camera work, which I just think is so impressive. And then those final minutes of this film like took my breath away. What a great choice to just hold on her listening to the orchestra. It was just so great. But yeah, this is just a very, very special film. I'm so happy I watched it. I'm just gonna say the only reason you won't see a a score of a 10 in a second here is just like my personal taste, and this didn't strike me as personally as I'm sure it did others, which I feel like I don't really need to explain, but nevertheless, just an incredible film. And yeah, just happy Pride Month, everyone.
Whoa, gay. What are you doing? Why are you two kissing?
Last film I got for today is Disclosure Day. This is the new Spielberg, guys. New Spielberg just dropped. Question is the goat washed? In my opinion, no. I personally really enjoyed this one. I find it hard to describe my feelings from watching this film. I was in the theater, and I can only describe it as like I felt comforted, which I know sounds so weird, sounds stupid. It was like returning home, and I feel like it's just because it's Spielberg. It's so distinctly Spielberg with the aliens and the camera work, the score. It just, watching this just reminded me that some artists are generational. Like, we are so lucky to have Spielberg. Like I said, I work at a cinema, and it's been really cool seeing all the older people come in for this one. There was one showing where just one old guy, only dude in this huge theater, stayed for the entire credits. And when the film ended, he just clapped to himself, and he comes up to me and he says, "That was like seeing Close Encounters for the first time all over again. And I saw that in theaters too. That was amazing." That's just so cool to me. It's so cool that we get to follow this auteur's work for his entire life. It feels fitting to receive a film from him right next to two films from this next generation of artists. I don't know. I just think that's all really cool. Anyway, the film itself, pretty good in my opinion. I've seen that a lot of people are disappointed that the film is more of a conspiracy thriller than an alien film. And I will also admit that the script is definitely the weak aspect of the film. I think some of the grander emotional ideas are a bit undercooked. I think more time should have been given to discussing them than to like more conspiracy stuff and action. Some of the dialogue is a bit mid. Like that, I had to stifle a laugh where Emily Blunt is like at the end of the movie, like, "This is Disclosure Day." I was like, oh my god, she said that. Like, that was kind of dumb. And I think the villains lose any threat they could give the longer the film goes on. Like, once Emily Blunt possesses the magic crystal that does anything that's needed, she always gets away and just all tension is removed. I don't question the technology though. Like, I'm not going to be annoying like that. But like, I think the invisibility shit was like sick as fuck and kind of funny. But the lack of threat that the villains give does suck because Colin Firth is a great villain in this. The interrogation scene in the farmhouse, superb. Watching it, you slowly understand how this technology is being manipulated. I felt so much discomfort watching Jane lose autonomy in the scene. There's definitely something being said on like a tool for unbound communication being used to control and invade. But in general, most of the acting was pretty great. I am obsessed with Josh O'Connor. If he's in the movie, I'll watch it. I think it's Emily Blunt who steals the show, though. This is personally my favorite performance from her to date. She's so manic in this a lot of the time, yet she's charming, and her breakdowns are so believable. And it was great watching her transition from this unwilling hero to becoming a confident bridge for humanity. I thought it was pretty stellar stuff. But yeah, the goons in this are pretty lame, I'll be honest. Like that scene where Daniel is going back to the farmhouse and the team is all there, and he's standing just like 20 feet behind them, and then he just like crouches down and he goes to steal the car. Like I felt like I was watching somebody play Metal Gear Solid. Like it's just like, oh, it must have been the wind. If he put on a cardboard box, like Like, this movie would do that, bro. Like, these guys were so dumb. But I will say that I loved the camera work in that scene, and it did kind of feel like a video game, like tracking him. Like, I did think it was really cool. The entire film is blocked and filmed expertly, which is to be expected from Spielberg. There's some really great compositions in here that are made with reflections. I love that first shot of Colin Firth that frames him through the car window, and like the moisture on the window makes it look like stars. Great shot. Speaking of first shots, I could have never guessed the first shot of this film. I genuinely thought the wrong movie was played when I was sitting in the theater. I was like, what is happening? So weird. But yeah, there's just continuously top tier filmmaking on display here. Spielberg is reuniting with John Williams. The GOAT is still putting in the work. I'm so happy that he got to do this score and not have like last Star Wars movie be his last score. Yeah, I mean, I was just so amazed. Like the score during the scene of Daniel and Margaret just remembering their childhood, like the music alone had me tearing up, man. Again, it's hard to explain, but I just haven't been so captivated by the pure wonder of a film in a while. It's just only Spielberg can do it, man. The film is so frightening and intense, but it never loses its spark of optimism. And despite lacking some nuanced discussion, I do really like what it says about empathy and faith. Empathy really is our greatest evolutionary development. The cynicism of the internet and our current world situation has definitely made us forget this. And so many of us have lost faith in humanity and its people, when really our faith should be leaving our higher powers and authority who continue to abandon, abuse, and lie to us. We're turning our anger against each other because we're the closest and most accessible. And it's so sad to watch. In this film, it was honestly a little hard for me to believe people's engagement with the revealed information on the aliens. Like, I more easily accepted the magic crystal because people recently have just been ignoring so many insane truths. Thousands of Epstein files are available with atrocious information. Nothing has changed. Our president is a known rapist and pedophile, and nothing has happened. A larger uproar occurred when the Knicks just won the NBA Finals. Like, I don't understand what we're doing. The final scene of this film is all I really want people to take away. Listen. Listen to the truth. Listen to each other. Listen to yourself. I know faith in humanity is so hard right now, but that's when it's needed most. I'm not at all a religious person, so I'm just saying to believe in whatever you need to keep going. Because when you believe, you'll help someone else too as well. And while I understand the frustration of there being few little alien dudes in this, it's not about them, it's about us. It's about realizing we're not alone and are one part of a larger group. We've never been alone. You may feel or choose to be alone, but you never have to be. A stranger on the other side of the world might be a connection you just haven't made yet. Sorry if that's a lot and I got into some big things, but hey, the movies get you thinking, you know? So some final random thoughts. Shout out the NES and Margaret's childhood home. I do like also that Spielberg just went with traditional alien designs in this. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But you know, I keep thinking, you know, what do you guys think Nixon did with those little alien dudes? What do you think those guys got up to? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, this was a pretty good film. Got me thinking, got me feeling good about the movies. It's a good time. Good to have the GOAT back.
Konnichiwa, Steven Spielberg des.
All right, everyone, that is our 5 films for this month. As usual, if you want to keep up with all that I watched in June and beyond, go follow me on Letterboxd. My account is listed in the description. Please let me know in the comments what you thought about any of these films. But now it's time to go over the next films for the month of July. So for July, we will be watching The Invite, The Odyssey, Akira, Look Back, and another viewer suggested film. As usual, I will go over a few notes about these selections. So like I said in the intro, made a big mistake with The Invite. It had to be removed from June's movie club, but I am keeping it for July because I do really want to see it and I want to talk about it. So I'm just moving it over to July. The film actually releases on July 10th. I promise, I've triple checked. Hopefully that mistake will not happen again. Again, I'm really sorry about that. And then The Odyssey releases on July 17th. This is a big one, folks. If you haven't been planning to see this one, I'm really unsure why you're in this club then. This is big. Obviously, it's the next Christopher Nolan film, and he's adapting possibly the greatest epic in literature, but this is also the first feature film shot entirely on IMAX cameras. So usually IMAX cameras are reserved for just action sequences, but Nolan actually utilized them for every scene. They're usually never used for dramatic scenes because the cameras are so loud. But the mad bastard figured it out. So if you have the opportunity, I highly encourage people to seek this one out in your nearest IMAX theater so you don't miss film history. I'm particularly excited because I secured tickets for an authentic 70mm IMAX screening of this film. There are less than 30 theaters in the United States equipped with this technology, but Illinois finally received one at Cinemark in Woodridge just in anticipation for this film. So I've never been to a true IMAX screening, so that combined with The Odyssey being the first full IMAX feature, it just has my excitement at an all-time high. Like, I cannot wait to watch and discuss both the film and my experience. I'm really excited, guys. And as for the other two films, I'm being a little greedy for July because
it's my birthday!
So I've chosen two of my favorite films this time. Usually I'll just do one or zero. I'm doing two this time. Fuck y'all. I'm just kidding. But Akira is one of my favorite cinematic experiences. I believe it is an essential film for any movie fan, and Look Back is just an incredibly important film to me. And once we get to July's movie club, you'll know why. And then, as I said, I'll be picking another viewer-suggested film in the comments. As usual, feel free to reuse your suggestion from previous videos. If I didn't pick it, yeah, throw down some suggestions, guys. Last video, there was only one person, so I just had to go with theirs. Come on, give me some ideas. Give me some ideas. But yeah, I want to just say thank you again for watching the last video and joining me again today. I've been having so much fun with this. It's been a great time. I hope you've been enjoying it, and I hope you've been enjoying the movies. But I hope to see you once again at next month's movie club. Take care, guys. Bye. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.